Then I'll crank it up too.
And first order of business is.
Recording in progress.
First order of business is the minutes from the 12th. Everybody was on board here, or committee here, was sent a copy.
I'll move them.
So Judy moved.
I second.
Thank you.
Any comments, corrections, whatever?
I have none.
James?
Hearing none, do I have a motion to approve the minutes as submitted?
No, we already moved it and seconded it. So then we just vote.
Now a vote. All those in favor, aye?
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, I'm gonna go pretty much on the schedule, and we start out with our planning and zoning administrator.
Okay. Basically, this year, I've tried to keep the budget pretty much the same as last year. Couple of little items, I did increase, under supplies because prices have increased. So, I really, tried to keep everything about where it was last year.
I mean, when I looked at it, it looked like the change was basically in salary and benefits, which you have no control over.
Right. Yeah.
And I don't know whether those are final or whether the select board has reached any decisions yet on that, or.
I haven't talked about it yet.
Yep, I basically have Dina put those numbers in, because she has all those numbers, and I deal with the other.
I should
Thanks.
correct what I said. We have talked about it. We haven't made a final
All
decision.
right, I have a couple of questions, and they're gonna bounce off you as sort of the computer guru, or whatever
Okay.
you wanna call you there. And the first one, obviously, it isn't in your budget, but because we have that computer systems capital reserve fund. And I have no idea what condition the town's computer system is in terms of whether it needs some upgrades or changes or whatever.
From my perspective, we're doing fine. We just got a new server this last year.
We all got new computers this last year.
Yep.
All of us, everyone in the office.
So,
And so this year it will be some other stuff, like big printers and things like that, but.
and I know Rich was gonna bring this up, so I will bring it up. At some point in time, I want to discuss with the select board, either a smart board or a projector for this room.
You anticipated question 2.
And the only reason is that I hadn't, or not, one of the reasons I hadn't put it in my budget is I had not fully been able to research what I think would be the best option. I really would like to be able to see some of these things in action, and we have very limited ability in the Upper Valley for looking at some of this equipment.
And if it's gonna be something that we're all gonna use down here, then
I would
it
think-
would come out of the capital
Yep.
reserve.
I think it would. I'm just gonna say 2 things I've experienced recently. If you go down to the public library in West Lebanon, they have a conference room in there with a big flat screen that people can, through Wi-Fi, put up their
Yep, and that's
PowerPoint.
one of the things I've been thinking about. Up in
And the
this-
other one is, when I went back to my high school reunion, they had the classrooms, they had the thing in the ceiling that
Yep.
was a Wi-Fi projector, and this wall would have been a solid whiteboard.
Yeah.
And I think that latter system is pretty expensive.
I've looked at some of the projectors, you're looking at around $2,500.
Are they powerful enough so you can do it with the lights on in the room? That's the thing you have to be careful
Right, that's
about.
something that's probably not quite that powerful. I know that when the building was built, they did put outlets in the ceiling up here to plug in, so there is power.
Yeah.
So that, the installation would be a matter of just putting a bracket in the ceiling and
taking out a couple of tiles.
yeah, and cutting them.
Well, we can
Talk to
research
the
that.
ID people at the medical center, I mean, it's a teaching place, so
Yeah.
they do.
Hanover Town Hall also, I believe, has a smart board.
Yeah, I would like to see the smart boards also, because I'm not sure, there are things I would like to be able to do is, I have this computer up here set up for, logging into Zoom, so that, when the planning board or anybody wants to, see who's out, watching the meeting, they have a face.
Yeah,
And I'd like to have that a little larger. And then being able to put up plans, that we, so if we're discussing a site plan, a septic plan, whatever, it can be projected into a large enough space that everybody in the room, the audience and the board members can see it.
well, I've had several meetings down the library in West Lebanon,
Yep.
and they've just put the Zoom on there with that.
Yeah, and the same
Part of the
thing,
Zoom screen that's whatever your PowerPoint
yeah,
is.
and it, you know,
And
Dean
then
and
you
I
have
both have the
people
same.
that are on it, you know, along the side.
Yeah, Dean and I both have the same laptop for running meetings and running the Zoom meetings, and we should be able to cast the screen to the projector.
But as I
Well,
say, you have,
David,
I do that at the library all the time. I mean, you can get the fancy screen and everything, but
It's mainly, I have not researched,
right.
you know, to try to find what I think is the best option, and so I don't
was
wanna.
gonna say, you research it and then we'll bring it to the board.
Yeah.
And hopefully they'll include it in the computer capital reserve
Yeah.
expenditure end.
Yeah, and like I said, I haven't had the time to.
but as I
do it.
say, be careful to have it such that you can have the lights on in the room to take notes while it's being projected.
Dick, in addition to West Lebanon, the library at Bedford Hill has a screen that you're talking about. It's about the size of that whiteboard. It's Wi-Fi. We run all of our CRJC meetings there. And so and it also, the people on the Zoom meeting see exactly what's on the screen.
Yeah.
So it's not just looking at a little laptop
Oh, yeah.
screen and trying to see a D sheet, which really is this big by this big. So if you're looking for close by, those are two places.
That's great to know, thank you.
Yeah.
All right, does anybody else have questions for David while he's
here. He's on the town dime. Yes, I actually had another question. I'd spoken to David about this. Planning board, I suspect zoning board members, I suspect other people in town, there's a lot of workshops and conferences and all going on. And I would support a budget item for maybe $100 a person to be able to go to these workshops, either to pay for travel or to pay for the workshop registration fee. My guess is, you know, for the zoning and planning board members,
that's line 2 of the budget called training.
well, and it's not enough money. And so,
Well, and again, to speak to that, you know, I don't get a lot of people from either board asking for training. There is a planning and zoning conference that used to run twice a year, now it's running once a year. I've put in enough in the budget to send most of the board members to that, you know, be able to cover the cost of driving down and back for that one. I think training, if it's something that the entire board feels is important, you know, so I use the planning board as an example. If it's something that the planning board thinks is a good idea to send a member, and my own personal opinion is that, you know, you have elected members and alternate members. It should be the elected members. But the, sending those members to a conference, it should be a board decision, and it shouldn't be just a person saying, I wanna go to this conference. You know, it should be something that the board feels is important, so they get something out of it when the person comes back and reports back to. And I haven't been getting that request from any of the boards, so I have enough in here to send people to that you know, OEP conference, which is the Office of Energy and Planning, that's run by the state. But as far as other conferences or, you know, classes, I think that's, you know, if the board, you know, wants to send someone to something, I think that's the board's decision. And, you know, I have enough money to cover a lot of those.
Yeah, I mean, this last fall, there were two people on the budget committee, myself was one of them, that took the webinar that I still call it Municipal Association, I don't know what
New Hampshire Municipal.
that they ran, and I don't know what the tuition was for that webinar.
I'd have to look, I think it's $70 or $75.
Yeah, so I mean, the training's available that people can sign up for.
Yeah.
Yeah, so,
Why would you not want your alternates to go as well?
Because they are not elected members and they may not be, become a member. And so I would rather,
But they're
They're
showing
kind of in
enough
training,
interest to
yes.
become, so.
Well, that's up to the board.
yeah, that's
that
really,
should be- Well,
I think anybody that wants to go should have the
right,
opportunity.
exactly.
And they may, you know, if we give them the training that they want, they do sit occasionally, and
Yeah.
it may be a good idea to have a rough idea what the heck's going on around them.
and I have no issues, you know, again, with the training that OEP gives for planning board members and zoning board members. They have some very good introductory classes, but I just think that having a member say, I'm just gonna go to this conference because I feel like going, it may not serve the board.
I don't know, usually the people that wanna go should have the opportunity to go, is my feeling. I don't know how the selectmen
Committed.
feel about that.
Committed to serve on the committee, they're interested, they wanna learn, they can contribute.
For $100 for somebody, what the heck?
I mean, if you'd like to increase my budget for,
We'll
you know,
take it up, let this, we're talking about it here, we don't make decisions on budget here. These meetings with department heads are for us to ask questions and bring up topics, and it's an exposure to force the department heads to get their requests to the selectmen in time for the selectmen to prepare a budget.
So
When
we
does the
can
budget
vote
committee
we can vote on.
inform our feelings about the budget? If we have a difference from the select.
Well, that's where we,
So you hear directly from the department heads?
right.
Right,
But I've tried not to make any decisions at these
Right.
meetings. We wait to see what the selectmen
I
do.
was thinking about that, where in the agenda is our chance to discuss it?
Right now, if you have a question for zoning.
No,
Or planning.
she means later on after.
Oh, when we get the
whole
presentation
budget.
from the selectmen.
Yeah, okay,
That comes, we have 2 or 3 meetings at on the selectmen's budget.
okay,
And then you guys
And then we come
can
up with
discuss
a
and cut or do
budget
whatever you
committee
want.
budget.
Right.
Right.
right, okay,
We may agree with the selectmen and we may not.
exactly.
That might have happened once or twice.
Yeah. James, you have something, or you just?
Yeah, I was
going
just
quickly?
gonna say that at that point, that's when Rich can make the suggestion to increase this line item.
Right. Yep.
Yeah, I try not to make any decisions to prejudice budget going forward. Just because I asked the question doesn't mean I'm gonna vote for it when you ask for that projector.
Dick,
Well-
when does the department heads present their budget to the select board?
They have been invited to the last 2 meetings, they're invited to the next meeting.
I mean, are you seeing at the select board the same paperwork that we see?
Yes,
Yeah.
we are.
Same thing, right? Okay.
And if they don't wanna come, they don't have to come because we have what they presented here.
Okay. And has there been any revisions between the time they made their paperwork to you and we get this paperwork tonight?
We have not put together the select board budget yet, so, this is the presentation here before we sit down with it at our board meeting.
But I thought you just said that you
They've seen
had
parts of it.
presentations. Did you say you had had presentations from the department head?
No, I said they've been invited,
Oh, to the select board?
yes.
I see, but they didn't come, or?
We have not, we've had several presentations, but not all of them.
Uh-huh,
But we have again made the offer for
right.
next Thursday's meeting. And
What
whether
hours?
they come or not, we
Make
have
sure,
the
right.
paperwork that you're looking at, that we will look at to make decisions. And then if we have questions, we will reach out to them.
Are the department heads, are they able to make changes to the paperwork they showed you before we see it tonight, or do you know, or?
I would not encourage them to do that, but if they felt strongly about something, that they should certainly let the select board know.
I think if you had questioned David about something and David went back and said, okay, I'm gonna make some changes, I'm just asking, are we
We would notify
seeing
you.
something?
We would notify
Yeah,
you.
I do, it would be,
Okay,
yeah.
all right.
Just like the
Interested in
discussion
who
is-
sees what when and at what point do
Process,
things
yeah.
get, nailed down and everybody seeing the same
They
copy?
get nailed down, in my opinion, when we make between the first presentation to this committee
Mhm,
and probably the second one, because this committee will make suggestions
mhm.
and they will be considered, and
Yeah.
then we come back.
As a department, this is, to me, I've nailed down what I want.
Right, okay,
And so I'm not, unless it comes back and they say, we wanna increase your training budget, or the select board says, we wanna decrease your supply budget. This is to me what, I propose, this is what I would like.
yeah, and you're saying the same thing in both meetings, isn't it?
Yes, I wouldn't,
All right,
Yeah.
that's good.
and I typically wouldn't go to the select board unless I'm asking for something, different, or something new,
Okay.
or a large increase.
Yeah, it's not a secret process, but
No,
it's.
no, I wasn't suggesting, I just was wondering if we're seeing, if you had input at the select board meetings when there was a presentation and you made some suggestions or
We
recommendations.
haven't done any of that yet.
Okay, you just listened, I take
Right.
it, okay.
And in the old days, select board members weren't present for discussions with department heads.
Before the budget committee here, you mean?
Right, this meeting.
Yep, good, okay. Thank you.
Just
Any more questions on planning and zoning?
a comment on the training line. It hasn't been used for the last 2 years, so it may not be necessary to increase.
It's always a question.
So I guess as a longtime alternate on the board, I never saw it as available. And so, I don't know that the other board, I can't speak for the other board members, but it was not broadly offered, so, I mean, I'm gonna encourage David to increase it a little bit, and we'll see. The other, I did have one more question. We spoke about the capital reserves, the equipment capital reserves. What's that available to pay for? I mean, I know that we sock away money every year to keep them there, and under what circumstances can things be purchased from that, as opposed to using new money raised by taxes?
I think that would be a question for Dina.
It's actually a question for
Generally.
the trustees of the trust fund to read the warrant article that created the fund.
Okay.
Generally, if you're talking about the computer or capital
Yeah.
reserve fund, it's for larger items, it's for one-time purchase items, or like our computers are on a 5 to 6 year rotation.
Okay, right.
That kind of stuff.
Mhm.
Yeah.
But that's a sizable piece of money that we.
It's basically capital
Generally,
equipment,
generally,
stuff that has a life.
well, but generally, if we have a one-time purchase, let's say $3,000 purchase, or my printer, our big printers in there that are gonna be close to 5, we would use the capital reserve. Because, and that's gonna last, it's not something we purchase every year or every 2
Like
years.
a box of printer paper.
Correct.
Yes, okay, so.
And we have a plan that we kind of plan out, and
Mhm.
know what I gotta have in 5 years to do the next chunk and that kind of stuff.
So just as a practical matter, if there's a recommendation to spend up to $3,000 on a projector system or some sort of system, projection system here, would that be something that we could do the capital
I'd
reserve?
have to look
fund?
at it.
You'd have to
see
look at
if
it.
their
Maybe.
money was there this year,
Yep.
and then the board would have to, say yes, and then.
All right, good, I'm just asking,
Yeah.
you know.
No,
that's all
I'm
it
just
works.
explaining, because I
good.
can't say this year that, I'd like to think we have enough money, but I can't say that we do, 'cause I
Okay.
don't.
I think also what you say is, you know, if the budget committee and the select board recommend adding an extra $3,000 to the capital reserve fund for computer equipment, that can be done at town meeting as part of your
Yeah, but
regular
we can't
budget.
spend it the year we vote it.
You can't spend it the year you
Right.
vote it.
You can't put it in and then turn around and spend it.
Okay.
You have to actually,
You have to put it in a year before you spend it.
they changed that rule about 5 years ago, because that's what people
Try,
did.
David.
Well, no,
Yeah, but it was a good idea.
Basically, it's called Computer System Capital Reserve Fund. Capital asset is something that has a life of more than 1 year.
Yep, okay.
So printer cartridges can't be bought regardless of how much they may cost.
Yep,
also look at it, you know, for computer equipment that we are all using in the office, not just, it's not planning and zoning, it's not, you know, we all share
Right.
printers, because it doesn't make sense for each one of us to have one.
yep, okay, good. That's all I have, Mr. Chair.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
We're through with David. All right, I'm gonna try to go by the schedule. I guess Matt's up next.
Mm-hmm.
Good luck.
Thanks, man.
Thank you, David.
All right. Now that I have this paper. Yeah, so I'm requesting less than last year.
Notice that.
So, yeah, we're still trying to get this new setup that we have kind of nailed down. But yeah, we added in, maintenance on the compactor, which should be beneficial for, the compactor's longevity. And then, we've added a little to the safety and equipment. But yeah, I mean, overall, we're dropping it probably like 10 grand at least. And, yeah.
My question comes basically from your big cuts in the recycling down over 10,000 and basically the hall and municipal waste disposal down 9 if you put the two together. Are we really gonna be able to do that with what's happening, fuel surcharges and the rest of that type of thing in today's economy?
I think so. You mean the cost of hauling or the?
Yeah, sometimes
We
they.
have the prices, he has the prices
Oh, all right,
already.
they are price fixed now?
Yeah, they
Well,
have
as
already,
fixed as it can be.
yeah,
can
I mean, it
change.
can fluctuate. We have a little wiggle room. But we have the bins pulled every 4 days, so we have that schedule set. Holiday season, we have it pulled less because it gets busier. So it should be all set. We also have a 40-yard open top container that the town uses for culverts and stuff. That only gets pulled a couple times a year, so. I think we've got enough wiggle room even with fuel going up, that we should be able to make it just fine.
Those just look like pretty radical cuts in terms of what inflation is right now, was my reaction to it.
Yeah, well, I think historically, like, we used to pull the bin a lot more often. This new schedule that I have has worked out very well. We've never had the bins overflowed where we can't use them. So I think the every 4 day schedule and then the holiday season schedule, I think we'll still have a little wiggle room, even if, I mean, unless it goes crazy, and, which it might, but. I think reasonably we have enough wiggle room with it.
But less people are coming too, right? Isn't that what
Yeah,
you
I
feel?
mean, since COVID, since 2020, you know, we were diverting people to Lebanon landfill if they could. I think some people have actually started going to Lebanon. We still have a lot of people that don't wanna drive all the way down there. And then we've been getting new residents. I think they come into the transfer station and, you know, meet other people in town. You know, it's a good place to do it, but I think overall we've lost a small amount of people to the Lebanon landfill. So that's kind of decreased a little bit of, what we've been getting in.
Well, their recycling is kinda like easy down there.
Oh, yeah. No, they have way better capacity and capabilities than we can really compete with, but, you know, it's the local convenience for us. Gets people coming in.
You still have to go down to West Lebanon for groceries occasionally. James?
Yeah, just so I can understand the fluctuations in the recycling. So in 2020, it was like roughly 4,600. And then there was expected to be a big increase, is that why
Yeah.
we had, okay, so we had 29. And, is this like, we're just putting less in, is that why you're requesting that?
So, in regards to the 2020 49, that's
We weren't
when
using them.
we weren't using recycling
Okay.
really. Like, I can't remember what part of the year, but we discontinued and had people go to Lebanon with their recycling.
Right,
And we were
trying to-
just
yeah.
using trash. And as far as like future predictions, I mean, it's hard to gauge what people are gonna produce in a certain year. You know, next year we might get 5-6 tons a week instead of 2.5 tons. I think the average right now we get a week is 2.5 tons of recyclables.
So it's just kind of a misprojection of
It was
the,
COVID,
It was COVID.
COVID,
in
Yeah.
21.
they stopped
all right,
recycling.
that's why I'm asking the
Yeah,
question.
Yeah,
That's
yeah,
why I'm
yeah.
asking the
Yeah,
question.
yeah.
Okay.
Yeah,
No, but, so the town voted for 2022 for $29,000, but we've only spent like 4,500 so far.
yeah.
And
So
that is because,
I'm thinking that there's still some bills that are coming in. We still have the rest of the year to go. What we get for tonnages, we have to pay a set rate. We get what's called an average commodity revenue. And if our recycling is clean and everything's good, we get more money for it. If it's not clean, we don't get as much money for it. So that kind of cuts into that 145 a ton.
right,
So if it's really clean, it might be, 90 a ton. If it's not, it might be 20 a ton. So we kind of have to keep on top of that fluctuation, because most people are good in town at keeping the clean recyclables and we get a good revenue for it. Sometimes we don't, and it's not as good, it doesn't take a whole lot to contaminate a whole load if a lot of stuff that's not supposed to be going in there goes in. So it's kind of I guess it would be kind of a balance act, like what's it gonna be like next year? Each load that we get, what is it gonna actually be like?
so would it be safe to say that because we've only used them for a couple of years, it's hard to tell how much to budget versus how much we're actually gonna spend?
Yeah,
And you're just like.
the
sort of
single
working it.
stream's still relatively new. I mean, we've been doing it for a couple of years, but, it is hard to gauge though, like, cause we don't know how much we're gonna get. It all depends on how many people really are using the transfer station. And I'm actually gonna start keeping track of how many people are coming in. I used to do that in like 2018.
Do you have the road traffic counters? Did you
We have
find
one.
those?
I
What
think
happened
the
to
other ones are
5
somewhere.
that I bought?
I was gonna say, don't talk about that right now, it's a sore subject.
Oh, boy.
They're somewhere. So yeah, I mean, really, the recycling is still a work in process, and we're just trying to get, the numbers close, without doing too little and then having it be too much,
Okay, no, thank you, I just didn't, I was trying to understand why it would be.
That might be a nice, one of your memos that you send out on the listserv, because I didn't realize that the money you get for the recycling varies depending on how clean it is.
Yeah,
Yeah.
well, yeah.
I didn't know
like
that,
Cat
so-
food can with cat food in it, if that goes in, and spills all over the cardboard
My
and.
cat food cans are clean.
Perfect, that's what we want.
It's not your fault.
Not,
So
not
you
everyone's
do a
are.
little seminar.
It's always somebody
It's the
else's
dog
fault,
food
so.
clan.
Yeah, yeah,
Just put that little clue out there, might help.
yeah,
Clean your cans before they go in the recycling bin.
yeah. Well, most of them, I mean, you
So,
can have a certain amount of residual.
a wacky question. So
Level.
we get, if I'm understanding it right, if we've got, we ship a ton of zero sort, they pay us $145 or it costs us?
No, so we pay, the rate right now is $145 a ton.
And
When
we
they-
pay that?
That we pay.
Yes.
When they ship it, it goes to the material sorting facility. If everything that we have is clean,
Mhm.
then they're gonna give us more dollar amount per ton back. So we don't actually get the money,
Right.
we just pay a little less.
The next time?
So we could pay $125 a ton, or we could pay, never gonna happen, but 50 a ton,
Yeah,
if
okay,
it's super
alright.
clean and
They
everything
give us
they
a
want.
discount
So
on
it
the next
always
shipment.
Yeah.
costs us,
Right,
always.
Yeah.
yeah, okay, good.
Right.
And then the other question I have is, what's a bin hold? Is it like a ton, a half a ton,
Oh,
3
well, it
tons?
depends on what you have in it, so trash bins can hold up to 15 tons, they're 40-yard closed containers. Cause it compacts a lot better.
Right.
Recyclables, you got soda bottles with tops on them and paper, cardboard, and it likes to poof back out.
Right,
So
sure.
like, pretty much we get about 3 to 6 tons average on a zero sort container, and then 8 to 10 on trash. And that's on the 4-day schedule. I mean, we could get more, but if we go past that 4 days, then we have the bin packing up, and then we have to throw it into the 40-yard, and it just kind of defeats the purpose.
Right,
Yeah.
right. I was just curious.
Yeah, no, that's,
Yeah. The engineer in me, you know. Okay.
Any other questions for Matt? Thank you, Matt.
Thank you.
Judy, you're up.
Can I go?
Of course you can.
Thanks a lot,
Your
Matt.
baby
Have a good-
sleeps tonight.
Thank you.
I
Have a
was
good
here
night.
for you, you're just gonna walk out.
I know, I'm sorry.
How come your trustees didn't come tonight?
Oh, they trusted me.
Oh, I guess you've been there long enough now, so they trust you.
Been here a while, yeah.
You saw that, congratulations.
Oh, thank you. It also marked my 33rd year of involvement with the library in one capacity or another, so my fingerprints are all over that place.
Have you passed Geneva in a number of years as librarian or not?
No, I haven't passed Betsy, so
Or Betsy?
Betsy was 14, so. yeah.
What was Geneva?
Geneva, I think she was over
100.
20, yeah.
Yeah.
I think she came in 78 to
Wow.
98, maybe about 20. But, yeah.
Hang in there, you might make it.
I might, I don't know, we'll see. I had a few things I wanted to talk about before we talk about the actual budget, just to sort of update you, would that be appropriate?
Certainly, go ahead.
Okay, things to keep in mind, I guess, as we move forward. As you may recall from last year, I've been working gradually on righting some wrongs in terms of sources of funding for various parts of the budget. And the thing that we talked about a lot last year and that was approved by the town was increasing our books line so that we didn't have to depend so completely on the Blisters for Books fundraiser to fund the children's collection. And this year I haven't asked for, I would have in a normal year, I don't know, is there such a thing? But in a year where the cost of living had not risen so high, I would have asked for a percentage more in that line, but I left it at 15 for this coming year. The other thing that has changed is that due to the higher and higher usage of our virtual resources, our downloadable books and audios, I have made the decision to shift that funding from the Friends of the Library, because they sort of funded it at the beginning as kind of an experiment. We didn't know where this was going or whether we had the capacity to do it, and now it's, for some people, it's the only way they use the library, and it's a great resource, and we don't have any expectation of it changing. We've broken a couple of records this year in terms of the downloadable lending. So that's gonna shift over into the books and audios and videos line, and it's just incorporated. You don't see it there, but I'm gonna reduce the amount I spend on physical books and physical discs to offset it. Our circulation is good. I'm just gonna try to be a little bit more, the circulation of our physical materials is good. It's still, the physical collection is still being used quite a bit, but this seemed to me to be the only way to make that transition. I feel like it's incumbent upon the municipality to fund the entire collection rather than depending on the fundraising arms that are meant for enhancements to the library to be doing the funding for the essentials. So that's my thinking there. The Friends aren't going anywhere, hopefully, knock on something. But they will continue to use the money that they raise to provide enhancements. Like they bought a new book drop for us this year, which you would be amazed to hear how much those things cost. They're made out of airline steel or something, airplane steel.
So, if I followed what you were saying, you're going to ask the town to up the town's contribution to the physical books?
No,
No, I'm not changing anything, but I'm changing what I'm spending those line items on.
Oh,
Because
okay.
part of it's going to go toward the electronic resources, and then what's remaining will go toward the physical resources. So audio now means electronic audio, downloadable audio, and CDs.
that's
Yeah.
the 15, 1,000, 2,500 lines.
Exactly.
Books, and videos,
2,500 and 2,000
and 15,000.
and 15,000.
Yep, that's the big one. And then, I mean, this is the way we've always done it, where we separated everything out, and so this is the way I run my budget. But it will impact the books line, the audios line, the videos line, but the impact will be on me to make the decisions about the spending. The amounts I'm not changing this year. In fact, one is dropping, videos is dropping.
Yeah, the other big change I noticed was in the janitorial services.
Right, yeah, I did want to get to that, and I definitely will answer that question. I just wanted to also mention that what we are facing, and this is not reflected in the budget here, it's incumbent upon the trustees and I to find the funds. As far as I understand, as we always have due to the way the library is run, we're facing about $75,000 in repairs and renovations. We have a number of things that need our attention and have increased in cost over the past few years to an astonishing amount, 30% raises in estimates that we're receiving on various projects. So, I know that there are options to go before the town for, with a warrant article or something to raise those funds, but our first move will be to try to do some grant writing and see if we can't get some help from foundations to fund some of that. Finally, and this is a long-term thing, but I just, I wanted to take the opportunity, since I have your ears, I wanted to mention that one of the things about libraries is that they tend to grow, right? The collections grow, and while we curate the collection so that we keep it up to date and appealing to everybody, that means we weed some of the books that are no longer relevant out or no longer accurate out. We're always buying so that we have the best information and the latest information. So eventually there's a point where you're exceeding your capacity. And the building was built in 1936, and about 44 years later, the addition was put on. And that has been about 42 years since that happened. And we're facing a space issue, especially because we do consider ourselves, if not one of the community centers in town. And because of the way our collection is expanding, we're losing open space in the building for people to gather in any number. over, say, 2025. And so I don't know what the answer to that is. I'm not thinking that we're, you know, gonna go find a whole new piece of land and buy a whole new, and build a whole new building for $10 million. But the parcel of land that we sit on is a postage stamp, and I really think the only direction you can go if you were to expand would be up, and I don't know what the options are really for that. It's not something that we've looked at seriously, but I'm seeing this happening, and I'm aware of the fact that we're starting to outgrow this space, and that we need to make some decisions about where the library goes next, and what purpose it will serve the community in the future. And I like to think that one of the purposes is as a gathering space in town, a place where people can come and share ideas, hang out, meet up, and along with borrowing all of the things we have to offer. So those were the things that I just wanted to put out there for you about, what we're thinking about organizationally. And now I can answer your janitorial question if you'd like. Thank you for listening. We have had a custodian for many years at the library, somebody who worked around 8 to 10 hours a week, did the cleaning, odd jobs, some heavy lifting, moving boxes. The last person we had in that position resigned about a month ago, and I put out an ad and didn't have anybody apply. One of the, of course, requirements, just like any other town department, is that the person has to have liability insurance to cover, I think, up to $1 million, Dina, $3 million, yeah. So a lot of people who are in private business doing that sort of work are not set up to take on that. So my option was to go out and find a service to contract with. And I put out requests for bids directly to a number of organizations in the Upper Valley, and 2 responded. And the one that I ultimately went with was able to negotiate with me to do some work keeping the building clean for, I think, I haven't submitted any bills yet, but I think it's $275 a week. And he had actually quoted $495 for what I wanted done. I had shared with him the job description for the custodian. And I have to tell you that $275 is not great in terms of the amount of time I get. I get really maybe 3 hours on Tuesday and Thursday evening, and that's it. And they're just fitting in the basics. And I put it in to the budget here because the number was extraordinarily high, because it's a subcontractor, at $279 a week. I think I didn't really shoot for what he had quoted originally, and we're only 2 weeks in, and I'm already starting to notice that things are not as great as they had been when we had somebody coming in regularly. That's just something we're gonna have to do. Staff is taking on certain maintenance jobs that we had just depended on the custodian to do, replenishing of paper goods and soaps and all of that sort of stuff, and not to mention little repairs and all the little things that Mike Beck in particular was able to do for us, but Megan, who just left, was also really able to respond on almost a daily basis to requests. So it's a tough situation, and I think it just reflects the same increases that we're seeing in terms of salaries and.
Well, work with the selectmen after you've gotten a little more experience to see what that line really has to be.
Yeah.
Because we know you can't hire anybody in today's employment world.
Right.
So therefore, you're gonna have to go with a cleaning contract service.
Mm-hmm.
And when you go to that, everybody faces a huge increase in cost.
Mm-hmm.
But you don't want the place to turn into a pigsty.
No, I don't, and
So,
especially at a time where
I think it's something that, because you just started on it, it may be squishy what you come up with for a number. And as long as you went out for bids and that's the way it is, we may not have any choice.
I mean, I think I came in pretty, really low, and that, we'll see it
I
after.
mean, you may find it is $400 a week
Yeah.
services that you need there.
Yeah,
Is this company only coming once a week?
they're coming twice, you know, so for like maybe an hour each time, and it's a Tuesday and Thursday, so by the time the following Tuesday
Right.
comes around, we've had many dozen children use our bathrooms, and, you know, it's,
That's all
So
I can
it's-
think of is the winter.
yeah,
You know,
yeah,
wait
there's
until they
that too,
start
the
tracking
floors
in the
and
mud in the
yeah,
spring.
tracking in and staining carpets and all of that, so.
So they come two times a week for 3 hours each time?
No, total,
Hour and a
well,
half.
it's probably 3 man-hours, it's 2 people,
Right.
3 people hours. So it may be a total of 6 hours a week for this 275, which was just a number, I told him that was all I could afford based on what was left in this year's budget.
Mhm.
And he was willing to go with it, but I would assume that, with the assumption that next year he might, you know, be able
Wow.
to charge a little more, or.
And
So-
you had, you had advertised to hire somebody in
I advertised,
replacement?
yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah.
You're not gonna hire someone.
No, I mean, I spent like 6 man-hours of cleaning on the advertising, you know, and with no results, you know. The best results I got were from sending direct requests for bids out. But there were no applicants on a single-person basis, and it's because it's hard to come in and, you know,
Right.
and do this kind of work and pay for that insurance policy when you've got a 1 or 2 person thing.
But if you had somebody that wanted the job to be hired by the town.
Right.
They could do it.
At 9 hours a
So
week.
if somebody
yeah.
came to you and said, I'll work 2 hours a day
Right.
cleaning.
Right,
Chances
Yes.
are you're not gonna find that person,
right,
because you would have by now.
right.
But-
And that is what I
Right.
originally advertised for, because that's my hope,
Right.
is that somebody might fit that in with another part-time work, and that's what
I was
Megan was
wondering
doing.
who cleans the bank now?
I don't know, but they wouldn't, I don't know that they're required to have that insurance, you know.
Oh, I'm sure.
They're a
everybody
private
has that.
employer, you can't.
Yeah, it's a bank.
Or they've
It's a
hired
bank.
them.
Yeah, I
Yeah.
just
They
remember,
probably
yeah.
hired him.
I don't know, I haven't gone around and asked other
Yeah, I
businesses.
just want, because I'm thinking the solution might be somebody who, you know, on their circuit, if you're on, you know,
Mhm.
they don't have to travel far, you know, if they're cleaning the bank, you know, they could do that.
I know
Yeah.
there's one bank in town who has one of their employees that works in the bank, does their cleaning.
Right.
I'm more than willing to continue to look around. I will fully admit that, having been in the, you know, position, and Dina, I think will agree with me, of trying to hire people the past few
Yes,
years.
it's very
You get
Well, I
hopeless
asked-
after a while.
Yeah, ask the police chief about trying to hire
Yeah,
somebody.
exactly.
Well, and the
exactly.
difficult part about this job is it is, the perfect way and what you want it to be is a couple hours each day, or an hour each
Right.
day,
Right.
even just to.
Yeah, yeah.
And so, can it be any time during the day, or does it have to be after the library closes?
That's preferable,
That's probably the
especially
hardest
with
part.
vacuum cleaning, you know, you're not gonna vacuum in the middle of the library day, so, and that's one of the major things that needs to be done on a regular basis. So, you know, but we don't open until 10 a.m. and we don't open till 1 on a Monday, so that, you know,
So
closes through
someone
Friday.
could come in the morning.
Yep.
And then go to a different part-time
Yeah,
job.
yeah, the past 2 people who've done it have, in fact, you know, had it as a second job or third job, and we're doing it in the early mornings. And then come in and do a more complete clean on the weekends when we're closed.
It's a big job, it's a big building,
It's
it's
a large
a lot of
building.
cleaning.
Yeah,
You have downstairs
Mhm.
too, and the SAU offices
yeah,
and
yeah,
all that, yeah,
I think it's
it's a lot,
close to 3,000 square feet.
a lot.
And they clean the SAU office, you know, every room in the building is, you know, needs something, so, yeah. Would you like me to go through, or do you have any other questions?
I don't think there's any point
Pretty
going
evident.
through plus $50 here, minus $30 there,
Yeah.
that's sort of a waste of time.
I'm curious about the library clerk increase.
Right, so, as you probably know, James, our library clerk who became our circulation librarian during the time he was with us, Brian, left in June, moved to Connecticut. And then, and he had been working at an embarrassingly low wage when I first, proposed this position, which was a position that had existed in the past, and we were bringing it back. The only way that it was gonna work for us was if we offered something like a $13 an hour wage. And we managed to get it up to about $14.20 by the time Brian left, but for him, it was almost an internship, because he was in library school and this was field experience too, so there was value in that, right? When he left, and I advertised with that wage, which was what was reflected for the rest of the year's budget, I advertised far and wide. I got one applicant, and a lot of letters from colleagues and people in town asking me how I could possibly offer that embarrassingly low wage. Citizens in town just saw it on the listserv and wrote back and said, what are you thinking? Why would you pay somebody this low? So that one person who applied, I interviewed, and he was not right for the position. We both agreed, and so I just held off for a while and thought, I've got to do something about this, but that's not going to happen until 2023. Meanwhile, I was able to hire someone. Ursula Slate is currently in the position at a fewer hours per week at a higher rate. So she's getting paid for up to 10 hours at $18 an hour, because my goal was to get it up to a living wage, right? And then, but my need is for 20 hours. And so, she's holding down the fort for us beautifully, but was not hired to do the same sorts of tasks that a 20-hour-a-week person would do. So what I have done here, what you see from the 14 to the 19, is I've kept that $18. I didn't give it the same COLA that I gave to the other two employees. I kept it at $18, what we've been paying the current person, and increased at the same 20 hours, right?
Yeah.
So there's a jump there, which is why I didn't apply the COLA. I just did the jump from the 14 and something to straight up to 18. You just can't find anybody for any, and I'm still, not all that optimistic that I will, but we had an ideal situation with Brian.
When you can go to McDonald's and work nights for $18 an hour, I mean,
Yeah.
it's tough out there, it's just really tough.
Yeah,
And people aren't applying for those either.
and you
That's
might,
why McDonald's is paying $18 an hour, because they can't get anybody at
That's right.
15.
and you might notice a decrease in the assistant librarian's line, and that's just because she's reduced her hours by 4 hours a week.
The one
There's an
thing I'd
increase.
like to say on this is we've usually been pretty close trying to track the town employees and the library employees in terms
Right.
of benefits, COLAs, et cetera.
Right.
And I don't know that the selectmen have made a decision yet, so I think that those figures may change so that things track each other.
Right.
So we don't get the library giving people more than the town employees, or
Right.
vice versa.
I
Well-
have communicated with her what the board had discussed, they haven't finalized,
Yeah.
but discussed.
But
Right.
I'd just like to point that out to everybody.
Right.
We try to
And
make them track each other.
We do, and I appreciate that, and I'm glad that you mentioned it, and it is my goal, especially this year, to try to stay in line. It's an unusual year. There have been times in the past where I have added a merit increase on top of what the town was offering, and that is within our rights, to do that. But it's always my goal to try to, preserve that equity across the board for town employees.
Anybody have any questions for me?
Actually, I promised myself I would ask this. Do you have any wish list items?
Oh, and just that $75,000.
That's a good one.
Nice.
Bond issue for a library renovation.
Yeah,
Yeah.
right.
Do you have an
I
attic
think-
for storage space?
No,
No.
no, and
Is there a second floor?
well, there's the ground floor.
Yes.
You know, it's built
And the
into
basement.
it's built into the ground, so, there's the basement
Yeah.
floor, which is being, you know, used
Oh, yes, right.
completely. I do have one library storage room, which is where I keep all of my program supplies and things like that. And then we have utility rooms that are closets.
Right.
And then,
We have a small bathroom down there.
we have one small bathroom and one large bathroom.
But the 75,000 is for repairs, not
Yes.
to
Yeah.
address the storage space,
And,
is it?
would you like to know
That's
what they're
not a-
for, or?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Go, shoot.
Oh, okay.
Usually it starts with a roof.
We did the roof with Swan grant money, a few years ago, whenever that was happening, pre-2020, I think. So the roof is in good shape. We have a fairly new boiler, so that's in good shape, but we do want to improve the overall HVAC system and or looking at some kind of a mini split system.
Mhm.
One of the weird things about that building is that the beautiful front brick part is not insulated. If you go behind the bookcases in the winter and put your hand on the wall, it's the same temperature as outside, and the back of the building heats up, you know, like an oven, so there's no, and it's all one, the way it was plumbed, it's all one zone, so it's a little crazy. So there's that HVAC potential project. The front steps are degrading at a serious rate, and they always have, and we've always treated it with a skim coat. And it's just a problem that won't go away, and we're looking at a granite facing to those semicircular steps that are under the portico, so that the wear and tear of using the steps, because, you know, the children in particular, but everybody uses them, you know, many times a day.
Watch granted, it's awfully slippery in the winter.
No, it's a facing,
Ah.
yeah, and then some, you know, there are some new products that are, they're concrete, but they've got texture to them and all this, so there's an estimate coming in on this. I just would really like to find a permanent solution to this. There's issues with, you know, dripping from the portico, and so that's a big project. The back doors that are original to the 1980 edition need to be replaced. They're not secure, they're not weatherproof, and we want to be able to provide access to disabled patrons who wanna come in that way and use our elevator to go either up or down. So we wanna add what was once there, a camera and an automatic door opener. So that whole project is expensive. The exterior trim around the entire building hasn't been done for maybe 15 to 20 years and is chipping away. In order to do that, you have to hire a lead mitigation person, because it was built in 1936, the front part. So, I guess I didn't know this, that it doesn't matter how many times it's been repainted and dealt with,
Right.
no matter what, you have to bring somebody in, so
If
that
it's
adds
lead, you gotta have somebody, yeah.
crazy $1,000 of money, thousands of dollars. Oh, they're repainting the rails that come up the ramp and the stairs on the side. There's a couple more that aren't coming to mind immediately, but the total comes out to somewhere around 60 to
Yeah,
75.
it's not a West Lebanon new library.
No, and it's nothing fancy that we're doing, it's, you know, any grant money that we've received in the past several years since I've been there, since I first started there, has all gone toward the infrastructure. You know, we recarpeted the entire building to the tune of $34,000, and so, and we have a little nest egg, the trustees do, but it's very small, it's not exactly something that we could fall back on if, you know, some big, but we're trying to keep all the systems going. That's the situation.
All right, I mean, the other questions that I had, are there reserve funds that you might rely on, and the answer is.
So we
not
have, the
necessarily.
trustees of the trust funds manage one fund for us, that we get the interest on.
Right, but
which-
that's interest only.
Yeah, it's about $1,200 a year, it just goes into our coffers for, yeah. And then this little nest egg that we have is somewhere around 36,000 or something like that right now. And that's it. We keep talking about capital fundraising campaign, we keep waiting for something sexy to come up that we can raise money for,
Oh,
but.
come on, the trim around the building.
No,
Wait for
no.
somebody in town to win Powerball. Then hit them up to pay.
So, yeah. Thank you for asking.
All right, thank you, Judy.
Thank you.
Nice to see you all.
Nice to see you, Judy, thanks for
So I had a
coming out.
question, Judy.
Oh,
I'm
yeah.
sorry. Where in the budget, or is there a budget for the books that the state provides for download?
No, that's, the state provides it, but we pay an annual fee, that's what you're asking
Yeah.
for.
Oh.
And that is going to be, that's included in the books line
Oh, okay.
in part,
Yep.
and also in the audio line.
Okay.
So it's just, what I was saying was that we're combining all of the costs of the materials.
Regardless of the source?
Exactly,
Okay,
yep.
okay.
The
And-
book
and
is a
what-
book.
How much do we have to pay to the state?
We pay, it's a pretty good deal considering the number of downloads that happen. We pay, this coming year, we will pay somewhere around $2,200. And then we have a special membership that we pay an additional, initial fee for, I guess. And then we can go in and purchase titles that are available to only our patrons.
Oh,
And we do that on occasion. It hasn't really paid off in some ways, but yeah, so that's the general cost. And then we also have the streaming video, and that costs around $1,300 or $1,400 a year, but I keep expecting that to go up as that canopy program keeps expanding.
So each time a book gets downloaded from the state library, do you know what the per download cost is? to
It
the-
depends.
Oh, okay.
It's a crazy,
Oh,
it's a
all right.
crazy situation with, I mean, we're talking lawsuits and, you know, a real tough situation between publishers and libraries,
Yeah.
and publishers trying to get away with murder, overcharging us. When we purchase a book that you would walk into a store and get a 20% discount on and pay maybe $25 for a hardcover,
Uh-huh.
they charge us about $75. And it's a one copy, one user
Same thing,
situation.
right? I mean,
But it's the same as a book, you know, we lend it and then it comes back and we lend it again. It's the same with these, the way they've set it up,
Mhm.
but it's 3 times the price, at least.
Wow,
you know.
okay, well, thank you, I
Yeah.
didn't know where it was, thank you.
Yeah, it's not, there's a lot to be ironed out there, but it is the way
It's
we're
gonna be a
going.
problem, because you're not supposed to, if you have trouble sleeping, use electronics within an hour of going to bed.
Right,
And if you get rid of all the books,
yeah,
I'm gonna be in trouble.
yeah. Well, there's a way to shut the blue light off on your.
Is
you know,
there?
Yeah, you can reduce the amount of that you take
Yeah, I
in.
think I
And you have
do
these
that,
special
but still.
glasses now.
But it's still nice to have a book.
I agree.
There's nothing like falling asleep reading a book and waking up when it bounces on the floor.
Or your face.
All right, thank you, Judy. I guess we're on to Parks and Rec. Right, correct? Are we supposed to do that?
I can quickly review this, although the commission has been over most of the items, but we're gonna be actually addressing this on Monday night.
Are you, the question I always have on this is, what are we gonna do about Learn to Swim program?
Well,
Is that
here's what
back on?
happened this year, Dick, and I have no idea, but this year, the rec commission felt strongly about if we couldn't have the pond program and we can't, find people to work at that we wanted to at least hire somebody to come in and at least give swimming lessons to the kids. Couldn't even find that. There's not only a lifeguard shortage, but there's nobody to teach swimming lessons. I called every single area, Stores Pond, Upper Valley Aquatics, CCB, all of them around this area, looking to see if they had even just anybody to help us. And they didn't have enough employees of their own, so there was nothing there. So, I don't know what will happen this year. I don't know what will happen with the certified, swim teachers and the lifeguards. We just don't know. I think if the money's not there, you're gonna get people in town upset because they put money in there every year, and that's what they want. And I think that's what the ultimate goal is, for the rec committee to be able to supply this for the people, or make it happen, but,
I think more people understand that it doesn't matter whether you got the money or not. In the last couple of years, you still haven't been able to hire people for a
Right,
lot of
right,
things.
right.
And I think that's much more understood now than it was a couple of years ago.
Yeah, I do too. But again, I know that, I mean, I can't speak for the rec commission after Monday night, I can tell you
All right.
how
Well,
far,
let's-
how far they're willing to go. No, I'm talking about for swim lessons and stuff, and the pond program. But, you know, you just, like I said, you can't make people happen.
All right, let's come back to it after the rec commission has got their input.
Yeah, Nina, I had a question, I don't see anything in here for the ski program, how does that work now?
Yeah, that's a separate fund. This stuff in here, the Parks and Rec is, really, that's the taxpayers' money that oversees the beach, pond program, that kind of stuff. The sports, the basketball, the skiing, all that is
Soccer?
out of the recreation revolving fund. And that's the fund that was started, and it's fed by all the fees that parents pay for their kids to participate in sports.
So is it self-sustaining, is that what you're saying?
Yes.
More or less?
We make sure that we set our rates so that it pays, it covers 90% of the time for everything.
Okay.
Sometimes it doesn't, so we, you know, then we have extra. But
Some
we have,
sports, yeah.
we actually have, I don't even know what the total is at right now, but we certainly have probably close to $15,000 or $20,000 in this fund,
For everything, all the sports?
for everything,
Yeah, okay.
right?
Right, but we don't see it as an in and out in any budget anywhere.
No, it's off, it's
Yeah.
tracked by and overseen by the treasurer and approved by the rec commission to spend.
It's covered by a special statute on the
It's a-
recreation fund,
Yeah.
just like the conservation fund has a special statute.
In the town report every year, the treasurer reports
Mhm.
on it, so
Yeah,
you
okay.
know
Yeah.
what's been in it, what's been spent, what, you know, all
I
that.
just didn't, I was thinking
Yeah.
I would see a line item.
Yeah.
Yep, good,
Yeah,
thanks.
yeah. Yeah, so anyways,
We'll
and,
come back to that.
well, I'm
after
just
the-
gonna tell you the one big change that we did all decide this year is the beach and porta potty line.
Yeah, the porta potty
We
one.
decided that we're having a porta potty out there for 12 months of the year, so the ice fisher people can take
On the skating rink.
advantage
use the
of the
facilities,
same thing.
yes.
That's right,
Okay, so that accounts for that.
that's why that increased, yeah,
Right,
yeah.
and it's expensive, I learned, to have a porta potty
It
out in the winter,
certainly
because
is.
they have to wash it out with brine.
It's very expensive.
Well, that's
But
better than
it's
having
good.
them do their business.
Right, well, it's just nice to have a place out there, and you know what, we have the skating rink out there now
Well,
too.
yeah.
So there's kids and, you know, so it's nice to have.
Well, oh, the playground equipment there.
We have, well, yeah, well, actually, last winter, I think the playground, the new playground equipment from the Swan Fund got used more last winter than it did during the summer. It was a riot, because people were out there all the time trying to do stuff, but, yeah, and then they, the rec commission with, Mr. Mudge, who's a big hockey fan, is the one who restarted the, ice skating rink out at the
Out on the
pond.
pond.
No, it's not on the pond, it's in the parking lot. It's
Ah.
safe, we will not put one on the pond. Our insurance company would frown a lot on that. But it's in the parking lot, there's lights there, there's, you know, it's just the perfect place for it.
If the ice gets soft, it dulls your blades,
It
but
sure
you do
does.
not sink in up to your neck.
That's right, that's right. So, yeah, it's great. So I'll, Monday night, we'll chat about this and I'll get them to confirm it or change whatever they think they might, and I'll just throw it back at you next week.
Oh, is
if
that
that's
the
okay.
electricity too, because of the rink?
I upped the electricity because of the rate increase and the nighttime rate stuff, yeah.
Okay.
It may even have to go up a little bit more, I don't know, electricity's just
Eversource,
killing me, yes.
112%
It's
increase,
wicked.
Oh, what? I haven't done the bill yet.
112% increase in August.
Liberty Utilities, same thing,
Did
down
they?
at the kids' apartment. What they paid in July, the same kilowatt, they're paying $500 more for right now.
Yeah.
They just got their
More
first
than,
big bill.
more than double,
I don't know, yeah.
hurts a little,
Oh my gosh, it's sad.
yeah.
Anybody moving on?
Yeah.
Administration of Natural Resources, that budget has been the same for years.
Right, but you see my little note I put down here, because they're gonna be meeting in November to talk about it, and Blake heard rumor that somebody wants to increase something.
And,
It's probably like $400 or something.
but milfoil,
Well, that's what they're gonna
That's
talk about.
covered
Is that-
at a separate warrant.
That's what they're gonna come back, so he said, they haven't met and talked about this yet, because he forgot to bring it up at the last meeting. So I told him I would put that little, he told me to put these numbers in with that
I hear you,
sentence.
I'm
No,
just
I'm just
saying.
making sure Dick's hearing me, with that sentence that says, they may be back.
Well, not just me, there's other people on the budget
Well,
committee
they
that
were
have
all
to-
listening to me, but you didn't look like you were.
All right, and the cemetery hasn't met to discuss their
The
budget.
cemetery is next week, because they were on twice.
All right, does anybody have anything further, or is it time to adjourn?
I had sent an email to Dina, I was, interested in getting, so we could see the trends of our budget, because right now we're seeing just a couple years. I was hoping to get a spreadsheet of actuals for about 7 years, which would just be totals of each department. So that we can see the trend of how our budget has been going.
well, we can,
I gave up updating mine every year. I went back 20 years at one point.
Well, here's the scoop, and I told James I'm happy to do that if the budget committee wants me to do it. And just so you know, I did that because I don't wanna get stuck in having budget
Yes.
committee members write
Right. I understand.
all their personal asks. But it has to come with a lot of explanation, because there could be significant changes because of employees. Can't hire somebody, or you hired an extra person, you know, there's significant changes that happen in the budget.
Sure, so
Even if
all
you
I'm
don't know
interested
that,
in,
and
yeah.
you're just looking at the numbers.
and
Right.
also the warrant
So-
articles would make a difference, because some years, if you have a lot of warrant articles, the actual operating budget hopefully would be a little less to balance that out, but
Right.
we could go back
That's why I stopped.
to the
Do it.
town,
Right.
to the town reports and try and pull out, Dina, I'd be happy to come in and work through that.
Yeah, I just wanna make sure we use the audited numbers, because the numbers that are reported in some of the spreadsheets aren't, you know, after the
working
auditors
numbers,
come,
yeah.
they change them, and, you know,
Yeah.
I wanna make sure
Actually,
they're
the
right.
problem with the audit report is they categorize things differently than we do.
No, what I'm talking about, the audited, I always put audited numbers, because I enter in what the auditor gives me, and I separate everything, cause I know that they
Because if you
lumped
look
it
at the
together.
auditor's report, they're categorizing some things as
Right.
quite different than ours. And the reason I gave up maintaining that series of spreadsheets is I ran into some really big problems that really misled you as things would change from one department to another for the responsibility for something that was $10,000 or $15,000 a year. The classic one was plowing the parking lots of the town
Right.
buildings that bounced around in different places in the budget from year to year, and that was a $10,000 to $15,000 line item.
But Judy, if it's just departments,
Yeah,
and you and I go
We can
together,
just
we
go
could probably
Yeah, but
remember
probably
any
pull it
big,
out. And-
any big changes.
And a good place to start, I suppose, would be the bottom line. You know, the operating budget, bottom line, and the warrant articles, but yeah, if it's just
I will
departments.
send
Well, I don't think-
you, I
you
will
don't
send you
want-
my spreadsheets that you can look at, the two of you.
Can I ask though, do you want warrant articles, or are you just talking about operating budget?
I'm, interested in operating budget,
Yeah.
just to see the trend over time and to
Yep.
see, which departments, sort of what the percentage is that each of the departments take in the budget.
Can work on that.
I don't know, if nobody else thinks it would be helpful, then I don't want you guys to go to the work, but I think
Yes,
The
but,
question then, if there's a warrant article to do something, where does that appear does it go against a certain budget, or it does? For
It
reporting
depends, it
purposes.
depends on what the warrant article is, but I don't take, that's why I use the audited numbers, because if you take them from the MS 535, which is probably where you got some of them, or from any of those, they lump them all together.
And do they lump them consistently year to year?
That's the problem, they
In that
don't.
report, probably, but it's, it's like the Conservation Commission, the milfoil fund.
Right.
That goes under conservation, as far as the auditors are concerned, in the report that goes to the DRA. But in our operating budget, it does not. It stays
Understood.
separate as a warrant article.
So if there's a warrant article to fix the rest of Goose Pond Road down
Right.
to Hughes, and that gets approved, does that end up being expendable by the road agent? Or,
No.
or how does that get?
No, it doesn't, well, on the DRA financial forms,
Yep.
it gets lumped into highway,
That's what I.
but not on our
Right.
operating budgets. It
Yeah,
stays.
see, I think that's gonna do James a disservice when he looks at that number if you use the DRA.
No, I'm not, I
No, we're
wouldn't,
not gonna,
I
we're gonna
wouldn't,
use
Yeah.
I would
operating.
use the auditing numbers, the
But that's what
audited.
I'm saying, this is not what we spent,
No, what I sent to the DRA is the audited ones.
but it's what we spent.
Oh, but he's looking at just the operating budgets. He's not looking at
Well, it's,
I think.
capital funds.
I see
think
where you're
going the wrong
and that's
direction.
why I stopped trying
I
to do
think
them,
you- I
Bill,
think you did
because
the right thing.
they were just totally confusing, because the classic example is the milfoil. Conservation gets 1,000 a year, and all of a sudden you dump a 30,000 charge to conservation, and it totally misleads you. And then the next year, we don't do milfoils, so they're back to $1,000 a year.
Well, I don't put those in my budget, but that's fine,
But that.
whatever you wanna do.
So I guess what I'm asking, what would you recommend, are you recommending the operating?
I'm not recommending anything. If you just wanna look at departments as far as general day-to-day operation, no special projects, no special roads, no special,
Milfoil.
assessing projects or, right, milfoil, then it's the operating budget.
Right, okay.
But that's not what it costs to run the town.
No,
No,
Right.
that's true.
That's
why it's
exactly right.
misleading.
It's a part of what it costs
I
to run the
understand,
town.
I do understand.
You just wanna see what the departments are spending to operate their day-to-day things.
Yeah, I think so.
To start, anyway.
Yeah.
Does that
You're
include the
not
withdrawals from
restricted
the
to one
trust fund?
request.
No, I think,
No.
yeah, I'm just trying to get
it doesn't
a
include
bigger,
buying the trucks to run the highway
Right.
department, so it's.
I'm just trying to get a bigger
So-
picture than,
A couple
2
years.
years, yeah.
Right,
Um,
yeah.
What's, Val?
It does, it really is tough to,
Yeah,
Try to
no, I'm
compare
understanding
year to
that,
year.
it's hard, yeah,
Well, we can look at it.
yeah,
as I say, I stopped doing it because it was so ridiculous with,
If it helps him understand, that's
Yeah,
Yeah, this was,
do I now, are we content to call it time to adjourn?
Well, Dick, I
So
actually,
moved.
but wait, I just wanted to, fill you in a little bit on the property values of town.
Oh.
And typically, especially in a time like this, when property values are going up a great deal, if the property values go up and the grand list goes up, it softens the blow of the tax increases. And so if the grand list,
No, it doesn't.
No,
No.
no,
am I wrong?
no, it just drops the tax rate, but if your assessment goes down 10% and we have to raise the same amount of money,
Yes,
the tax rate goes up 10%. So you end up paying the same tax.
right. But
So the grand list is not what affects how much money is raised or how much money you're charged when it changes.
so, yeah, I mean, that.
It's only the growth.
It's only the growth.
new items onto the grand list,
Right.
not changes in the existing property.
Okay, so the grand list this year has grown by only about 0.8%. And so what I believe is gonna happen is if we're seeing a 8 or 9% increase in the town's expenditures, we're gonna see a 7 or 8% increase in
That is
actual tax
correct.
bills. Okay, so, I just want everybody here to be aware, this is a really hard place to be right now. Judy, I don't envy you at all.
Me neither.
Because, these people are coming in, certainly when the road, the highway department and the police came in, and they have very real reasons for their budget increases. We gotta pay our employees, we gotta be fair to our employees. And it's gonna be a challenge for us also to be fair to the taxpayers in town. So that's all I'm gonna say.
You gotta be careful on that, because just because my assessment went up doesn't mean my tax bill's gonna go up.
If the grand list only went up,
No, that has nothing to do, forget that. We're
Well,
not in Vermont.
let's wait and see what
Okay.
happens.
we'll see what
How about
happens.
that?
Okay, good. And of course, the tax rate that comes out in the next 2 or 3 weeks is only for this year, and of course, the budget we're talking about is for next year. And so, this is, the more I learn, the more fabulously complex this gets. And now, I'm done, thank you.
I move to adjourn, thank you.
You make a motion to adjourn?
I do,
Yes,
sir.
he did.
All right.
I would second it if nobody else wants to.
Okay. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Ay, ay, ay.
Oh, no, I wanna stay here longer.
Yeah.
Oh, do you? Okay, so
Yeah, 8:21.
we'll bring you in sustenance tomorrow.
Yeah, you do that.
Here.
You do that.
Wow.
Thank you all.
The thing you have to worry about